Okay. Uh, Akash, we can start with the session now. Just tell me once the meeting is live. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start in a bit. Just wait for a few more minutes. Okay, we are live. Perfect. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this exciting event on unleashing power of GitHub Copilot, building apps with Agentic AI. I'm Harshvardhan, and it's my pleasure to be your host for this exciting event. Today, we are gathered to celebrate the convergence of creativity, coding excellence, and cutting edge innovation powered by GitHub, Copilot, and Agentic AI. This session brings together developers, creators, and AI enthusiasts eager to explore the limitless potential of GitHub Copilot. Through collaboration and hands on experiences, we aim to unlock new ways to enhance productivity, streamline development, and push the boundaries of what AI powered coding assistants can achieve. This event is designed to inspire innovation, foster learning, and empower you to harness the power of agentic AI with GitHub Copilot to build the next generation of smart applications. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to our keynote speaker, that is Karan. So, Karan leads an international developer relations at GitHub. He helps developers harness the power of AI and open source through GitHub tools. He supports developers learning, grow open source community, and streamline workforce for developers. As one of the GitHub's early hires in India, Karan has played a critical and a huge role in strengthening the country's developer ecosystem, working with developers, open source community, startup enterprises, students, and even nonprofits. He has represented GitHub on a global level alongside Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, and Thomas Dohmke, who is again the CEO of GitHub, shaping conversations at developers, innovation, AI, and open source. Now, without further ado, I'd like Karan to take the stage and tell us about this exciting event that we're going to have. Over to you, Karan.
Thank you so much, Harshvardhan. I hope I'm audible and visible to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is joining in live as well as who might be watching this video later on. Thank you so much for joining in. And I wanna, share with you a whole lot on what's possible with AI. Now, all of us, of course, are developers in various stages of our learning journey, right? We are probably beginner developers, or we are probably learning, a few technologies and going on the way, or we are probably even experts when it comes to our own tech stacks and how we build stuff, right? And it's of course something which is which all of us probably as developers have realized by now that AI is playing a huge role when it comes to software development, in the world today. Be it a student who is learning how a certain programming language works, or someone who is a senior developer working in a product multinational company building products for the entire world, right? So there is the power of artificial intelligence which is there everywhere. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about that. Now, before we start off, I have a good news and a bad news for you. The bad news is that I have zero slides and presentations. As a developer and as all of you as developers, I want to show you live in demos, walking through code, walking through things on GitHub, and then kind of code along and then do things along with you rather than just go through, slides saying this is that, etc. So over the course of, in the next 1 hour or so, I'll walk you through what all is possible with AI and with software development, especially around with GitHub. Now, before we get started, all right, one of the amazing things about all of this, whether you're tuning in live, audio, and videos, is just the community of developers. All of us coming together really to learn together. So, how about you just go ahead and then say a hi as to where you're joining in from in the comments. I can see this, comments on YouTube as well as Zoom coming in live over here. So just say hi, joining in from city or a country, etc. And it really helps each one of you connect and then kind of see. So I'm kind of seeing people saying hello from Bangalore, Kochi, Mumbai, Coimbatore, Rajasthan, Indore, Dhaka, Barcelona, Islamabad, Chandigarh, California, Nellore, Pennsylvania, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, and so many more places. So, hello, everyone joining in, and thank you for joining in. So great to see you, everyone across the country and even across the world. I see so many people, joining in from so many other countries as well. So, like someone from, I just saw here, San Francisco, Washington, DC, Massachusetts, so many different places. Great. Now, before we get started, one other quick question. I hope all of you are aware of GitHub, right? So I'm not going to be introducing much about what GitHub is or what GitHub does, because one of the assumptions that I'm having, a humble assumption, is that you've probably already heard of or used GitHub to some extent, all right? If you haven't heard of or not used GitHub Copilot, that's totally fine. We'll walk through entirely what all is possible with GitHub Copilot. So to all the folks joining in again, hello again from Tamil Nadu, UP, Telangana, Noida, Hong Kong, Indore, etc. All right, so let's get started. So let me bring up my screen first, and we can go on from there, sharing more about everything that we have in the session. Um, all right. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone who is viewing it. And moderators, Harshavardhan and team, request you to please let me know if there's anything that comes up, either if the screen is not visible or if I'm not visible, etc.
Yeah, Karan, it's perfect. You can go ahead with the session. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you. Oh, okay. Someone is so excited that they're kind of annotating my screen as well, and looking through everything that's happening over there. Thank you for that. If you can just please clear that, that will just help with a better viewing experience for everyone when I'm kind of sharing through the code itself. So let me just go ahead and clear all of those for now. And all right. So GitHub Copilot, all right, is an AI peer programmer. It's not just a coding assistant that's there that you can kind of use for code completion, but GitHub Copilot is a complete AI peer programmer that you can use and build along with for various different use cases, or for various different kinds of software or anything that you might be developing itself, right? So GitHub Copilot started off something as a just a code completion initially. Oh wow, there's so much of excitement for people who are kind of annotating. Um, let me kind of just pause this for now so that um, it's a little bit more cleaner for everyone who is watching it. So I'm just gonna clear all of these things and hopefully, all right. Great. Okay, so now let's get started. And instead of just telling you what is GitHub Copilot, let me show it to you. All right. So we're going to start off with one project over here, one software that it's not really a greenfield app. So we're not starting off from scratch building an app, but we have an existing app that we will be kind of going through, building a few features, debugging stuff, and all of those. All right. So now, what is this app? All right, just to give you an understanding of what we are kind of working through over here. This is a simple kind of a personal finance app, all right? Something that helps you kind of just track your transactions, look at your income expense categories and things like that, all right? So just something for demo purpose, but it's kind of a real app which uses Python Fast API as the backend for all of the backend APIs, and then also um, it uses Next JS for all of the front end along with React, and a PostgreSQL for all of the database as well. All right. So that's the app that we are working with. So you can see I've kind of just have some income, expense, etc., and kind of added a few test categories and things like that, etc. So we'll come back to this in a while. But going back to the app, all right. So I already have my backend server running over here, and also my front end server, which was what I was showing you, and then my shell as well. So um, for all of the folks, let me kind of try to zoom in a little bit more so that you are able to kind of see what you're able to kind of see a little bit more better. So let me kind of make that a bit more better for all of you and do it this way so that hopefully you can see this much more bigger and better. All right. So I'm hoping this is fine for all of you who are able to watch. Um, so let me zoom in my VS Code a little bit more, and I hope this is better. All right. So I see all of questions coming in on multiple different aspects of Copilot already. So I'll be addressing many of it. All right. So can someone give me a thumbs up if it's all viewable and easy to view right now in full screen? I believed I changed that, but let me try once again. Is this full screen and fine right now? Okay. All right. Okay, great, great. Okay, I see thumbs up over here. So I'm hoping this is all fine for everyone. Thanks for someone who's sharing even a screenshot. Okay, great. So let's get started. All right. Now, one of the things that Copilot can kind of do is code completion. All right. So let's take a look at that. Now, you see, I have this is a monorepo, which means the back end and the front end is all within a single repository itself. So I'm just going to open up one file, which is I will open up my API, and you can see I have a lot of endpoints. I'm going to open up something for the transactions. All right. So I'll just reduce this. So let's go look at this. What this does is this is a fast API endpoint for handling all of my transaction related REST APIs within this app. So you can see there is a post slash transactions. There's a get transactions for all. There's a get specific transaction ID and so on, etc. Right? So then there is categories and subcategories for all of your transaction categories itself, etc. And then there's a get transaction subcategories. Now, one thing while I was just scrolling through, I noticed is that there's a delete for a category, but there's a delete for a subcategory that is actually missing. So let's go ahead and actually write that. Now, as a developer, if I'm not using something like Copilot, what I might do is I might kind of start writing all of these, right? I might write all of my annotations for the endpoint and start writing all of my logic. Now, with Copilot, one of the things that you can do is code completions. Now you see over there when I just add my cursor over here, there is already a suggestion which is just a ghost text, which basically starts the pattern for my comments over here. So I can hit tab, go ahead and accept it, and you see it's actually already suggesting that, hey, you should probably write a delete for a transaction subcategory, right? Now, what Copilot is doing over here is that it knows and has the context of your entire file that is open right over here, and along with any other files if you have them open, right? So with that context, the AI of GitHub Copilot is able to understand and predict what you might need next. All right, so you can write this comment which is a ghost text, all right, and then say that yes, it realizes that I have a delete subcategory missing. So all I'm doing right now on my keyboard is just tab. I'm just hitting a tab, and that was the comment part if you see in all of the places, right? Now, again, when I accept that comment, that becomes again one of the inputs for GitHub Copilot, because then it sees and realizes that, okay, I should probably write this write this method. All right. So I'm going to again hit a tab, and you can see that there is the annotation for delete, and then it also goes ahead and suggests this for me. Now you can see that when I hover over this, there is also a few different suggestions. If available, it's going to give me, in this case it is just one. Both of them are actually the same, not very different. So I'm going to go ahead and hit on tab again to accept that. All right, and I will save it. So in just a matter of few seconds, all right, we went ahead and wrote this endpoint for deleting a subcategory using AI, and you see that a whole lot of the way that it has written the code is very similar to what was existing. So it has very similarly written my written my decorators and annotation, etc., that defines what this is for fast API, and also writing comments in a very similar way as it is in the different files, etc., right? So that's really nice, and this is something which which has existed with GitHub Copilot for a long time, since when we launched Copilot. This was the very first thing that we launched with Copilot, and there's so much more. Now, one of the things I want to show you is, as a next step, if you notice, there is category service.get subcategories, and there's category service.delete subcategory. Now, this is something which, just by looking at, some of the styling here with the code, right? I think that this probably doesn't exist either. So I'm just gonna, go to my category service, declaration itself, and this is my category service. So what this is, it follows a service pattern here in the backend API, where endpoints use, just handle the REST API part of the app, and then the service actually manages multiple things like actually executing the creation, the deletion, updation, and all of those things, right? So this is the service. You can see there is a get category and a delete category and a get subcategory. So it's probably missing the delete subcategory over here, right? So I'm just gonna scroll, and you can see all of the comments. There's a create subcategory, and that's about it. There is nothing else over there, right? So I'm just gonna again hit enter, and then let's see what Copilot says. It of course suggests me again starting with a new comment similarly, and then it says update a category, which might or might not probably be right. So I'm just gonna hit on enter again over there, and let me see what Copilot has to say. It's just an update category, not exactly what I needed, but you see what happened over here. All right, this looks a bit different, and the reason why this is a bit different is this is a new feature in Copilot called as, if you hover over this, you will see it's called as a Copilot next edit suggestion. All right. Now you notice here, like in or dissimilar to the previous case, I did not actually provide any comment at all. There was no comment I provided, but it actually suggested me right over here as to what should be the next edit here within this file. And how did this happen? This happened because I have my transaction.py, my endpoint where we wrote our delete subcategory endpoint open still here in the editor, and I have my category service as well right over here. So what Copilot is doing is it understands the context of the open editors, in this case of transaction.py, and also my category service, and then it suggests that, hey, your next edit is probably writing this, which was exactly what I had in mind, right? And if I go ahead and then just hit a tab, I can accept this. All right. So you see, the next edit has understood a whole lot of things. It has understood that this is what I want to write, and suggested me that one. It has written the comment for me, and it has also went ahead and written everything which is needed from a database viewpoint as well, etc. Right? So really nice. This is something which is very new, and you can use it in various different ways. So if you're going ahead and, for example, editing something very very small as well, right? Next edit suggestion can actually go back and then really look at and suggest you what should be the next thing. For example, I'm not going to accept this change, but if I want to have something as a sync session, right? And if I kind of go ahead, VS Code actually kind of goes back and then says that there's probably not sync suggestion, but also Copilot goes back and then tells me that it must be like a async session, right? So there's a whole lot of places where Copilot kind of really comes and helps you. Now, this is all great, because you can kind of go ahead and write all of the code that you need by completing code. One thing that you might have noticed by now is that with all of this, with code completion as well as what you're kind of trying to do over here through next edit suggestions, right? You can't really interact with the code much. You're not able to kind of say that I want to do this or I want to do that. What you're able to do is, if you're in the flow, you're writing some functions, and you're kind of writing or even entire files, you're able to get that and work on it, right? And this is where something like GitHub Copilot chat comes into view. Now, if you're there here in VS Code, something similar to this, right? You would notice that there is a left panel and then the below panel, which has the terminal open. And the secondary panel right over here, if you open that, you can see Copilot chat pop up. All right. Now you can see there is Ask Copilot, which means you can actually interact, with the code as well over here. All right. Now with Copilot chat, you can ask a whole lot of questions to it in natural language, similar to how you would with just a friend or so. All right. So that's something which is very very useful, because just imagine you're working on a project, and and you're kind of having a lot of questions on how something works or why this code works, etc. What you can do is you can just open up Copilot chat, which again is free for you as a part of GitHub Copilot free, and you can just start asking questions. All right. Now let's go ahead and then do some of those things, right? Now, one of the things while I opened this file, I noticed is that we are actually importing something called SQL Alchemy and then also SQL Model. Now, I'm not really sure what's really like the difference between both of these, and I don't want to just jump out of my editor, spend a whole lot of time on a search engine or a Q&A forum kind of trying to really wonder what I'm kind of wanting to do. So instead, I can go right here in Copilot chat itself and then ask something like, what's the difference between SQL Alchemy and SQL Model? Okay. And one of the amazing things with Copilot chat is also that you have a choice of the LLM models, or LLMs, that you can use as a part of GitHub Copilot. And if you see right over here, in the drop down, you can actually pick a model that you want. Now, just remember that the list of these models that you see or anyone sees will vary individually based on which Copilot plan they are on, whether they are on free or whether they are on Pro or Pro Plus or an enterprise plan where their organization has enabled only a few specific models or not, etc. Right? So here, for me, I can see a bunch of models which are available all the way from Anthropic Claudes to Google's Gemini to OpenAI's GPT and O reasoning models. All right, so I can choose any one which which I want, which I have available here in the model picker for me, and ask that question. So for now, I'm just going to stick to Claude 3.7 Sonnet. And you might also notice that we have Claude Sonnet 4, which was just released a very few days ago itself, also already available as a part of GitHub Copilot. So I'm going to go ahead and ask this very generic programming question as I'm working through as to what's the difference. All right. And then it tells me that, okay, here is an answer which I get that, okay, this is SQL alchemy. And, it requires a separate definition of DB models, been around a lot, a mature ecosystem. And oh, SQL model is actually built on top of SQL alchemy and pedantic. So it tells me also from my specific project that you're using SQL Alchemy, etc. Right? So you see, I had a very generic programming question, which is actually not related to what I'm building on here, and I can ask that to Copilot, and it will help me with it. Right? Now, it's not just about general programming questions, but I can ask it specific questions related to the software I'm developing as well. So let's go ahead and, for example, see here that there is something which is looks like, of course, a SQL model where it's running a query. All right. Now, what I can do if I have to understand a little bit more about what it's doing is I can select that code. All right. And you can see it takes that as the context, line 66 to 79, which I've selected. And I can ask a question which is very specific to this. For example, I can ask, what's the equivalent SQL query for this? All right. And I'm asking it very specific to the line of code that I've highlighted, right? So then you see Copilot actually kind of gets that for me, and it tells me that, okay, the subcount query you highlighted translates to this SQL query. And you know that it's kind of really understanding what's happening over here, because it's kind of also doing a where and a in, which is actually being handled by the ORM as well as Python over here, right? And it also gives you this nice summary that it's actually doing a left outer join between subcategories and transactions, right? So it's something which is doing which is kind of very specific to this code as well. All right. So that's something which is nice. We're kind of working on this specific file as well and kind of trying to understand what's happening. Um, Great, so this is nice. And one of the things most often when you might need is you might not always want to kind of select this code here, come back into chat and then type it. You might want it right there within the code, right? So that's where something like inline chat is available for you. All right. So if I kind of go back to that delete subcategory that we wrote over here in the end, all right, and I can just select that specific SQL, all right, and I can bring up Copilot inline chat by just hitting on Control I if you're in Windows or Command I on Mac. So if I do Command I, it will bring up Ask Copilot, which is my inline chat. All right. So I can kind of do a whole lot more here in inline chat. For example, I can, just say that use raw SQL. All right. And then you can see that I'm using Claude Sonnet 4 over here. And then it goes back and actually writes this, raw SQL for me and changes it right here within my editor. All right. So I'm not gonna use that for now. I want to use the ORM itself, so I can either choose to accept it or not. But instead, what I'll probably do is, I know that Fast API has constants for some of these status codes. So I will ask it to say use Fast API constant status. All right. So that way, hopefully, it should be able to kind of change this for me. All right. So I will go ahead and accept that. And you see there's a squiggly line over there as well saying that status is not defined. Now, this is one other place where you can actually go ahead and actually fix this issue with Copilot as well. So if I go over here and then say fix using Copilot, it will help me figure out what's happening over here and says that, hey, you haven't actually imported this module at all. So if you see it gone ahead all the way to the top and added this status for me, which I can go ahead and accept. And if I come all the way down, that squiggly line has gone off. So I was able to kind of not just go back into chat and then ask what's happening, but I can actually go right there within my code itself and then also ask it to change things in line itself. All right. Now, there's so much more that you can do in chat rather than ask questions and ask for changes. You can ask it to do things which are a lot more specific as well using something called as slash commands. So let me show you that. I will just start a new conversation session because I'm trying to do something new. All right. Now, if I do a slash, you can see that there is actually multiple different slash commands available for me over here being provided by various different providers. For example, search and start debugging is part of VS Code. And then I have multiple things by workspace, terminal, etc. An interesting thing, for example, for this project is setup tests. I don't have tests set up for this project yet. All right, so I can just do slash setup tests and then hit on enter. And then what it's going to do is it will go work, and then it sees that you're working with Python backend using Fast API, and it's using SQL Alchemy SQL model, and it of course gives me options as well, saying that you can use PyTest, HTTPX, or PyTest async IO. All right. So I'm just gonna say go ahead and use PyTest for now. All right, to set up a lot of my tests, and then it goes ahead and you see it's creating this test structure that follows this. All right, it hasn't made any of those changes. It's kind of suggesting me that these are some of the things that you can do to just get started to set up the test. It's not kind of really writing the tests initially. I'm just setting up the boilerplate. So I can go ahead and then say apply changes. And if I just go look back here in my file tree, I'll just collapse this. You can see there is slash test, which is started, and it has written this kind of boilerplate for me to get started with, writing all of the tests as well. Um, I won't complete, conferring all of the testing frameworks, but I want to show you how easy it is to write tests as well. For example, what I will do is I will just collapse this for now. And we've written this new delete subcategory, right? And if we want to write tests for it, I will just again bring up my inline chat command and I just say tests. All right. And it will generate the unit test for me for the code. So you can see on the right, it's kind of popped up a new panel for me, and it has started writing some of the tests which I would need as well using PyTest. You see, so it's written various different test cases and test scenarios as well, which I can add it to my test file and then kind of start working on. So I'm not gonna write all of the tests and everything else right now, but it's as easy like this to just select whatever code that you want, write the unit tests, or even entire integration tests as well if you need. So I'm just gonna close this for now, and I will also close this test that it has written for me. All right. So that's nice. So I'll keep this. And we've seen through in the past few minutes, right? We've gone through how you can do code completion, how you can do inline chat, how you can utilize next edit suggestions to edit whatever you need next. We've seen through chat as well as to what you can do for asking questions, changing, etc. And just imagine that you've kind of written some code and you're not really sure how good it is, or if you want a review from it, you can do that again right here using Copilot as well within VS Code. Now, I have my Docker Compose file over here, and what it does is it just brings up for development purposes a very simple Postgres DB, with a very unsecure username and password, Postgres, and then starts it up. All right. Now, this might or might not be the right way to do a whole lot of things. And I want a review from Copilot if there's probably something that I want to change right here within VS Code with code feedback. So what I can do is I'm going to select, the whole content and then say that I need a review on this. The way I can do that is just do a right click and, you can find Copilot over here and there is a review and comment right over there. So when I do that review and comment, you can see over here, it says that reviewing it, and you can see the review comments just like that by Copilot. So it says that you have 16 Alpine images specified, but be more specific. Well, it's valid. And then I can kind of go to the next one. And then it says that container name MoneyDB is descriptive, but better be consistent to use a name that aligns. All right. And then I can go again next. And it says that, well, health check uses PG is ready, but it does not account for the database name. That's a good one, because I would have probably missed that out just to check that Postgres is ready, but is the database actually, ready as well for querying? And then next it says that, well, the data is mounted, which is correct. However, you need to ensure that the machine has sufficient disk space and proper backup mechanisms. All right. Now, well, this might or might not be needed because I'm in development environment, but hey, it doesn't hurt if I had to change that. All right. And then same thing, it has um, volume section is defined, but why are you doing that, right? So in fact, for all of these comments, you don't have to even go make some of those changes because you can just use Copilot to go and apply that. So I can just say apply and go to next, and then I can again say apply and go to next, which I will go ahead and then do it, or probably I will leave it, and then I can just say discard or apply, etc., like whatever I want. So that's how easy it is for you to just ask Copilot for a code review on any code within where VS Code itself, and get feedback from Copilot itself. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and then close all of these for now, because I just wanted to show you how easy it is to also ask a review from Copilot for the code that you have written. All right. Now all of these are pretty simple, because you're kind of telling Copilot what needs to be done or how you want to do it, etc. But Copilot is capable of doing a whole lot more and a whole lot more powerful things. All right. So let's get into some of those right now. And I know there's already many questions in the chat as well as to can Copilot do this, can Copilot do that, etc. And I'm going to show you all of that right now. So let's get into and then take a look at our front end a little bit more. And I have my accounts, or rather, I'll probably go into settings and accounts, or I'll probably, sorry, I think I have my accounts overview page. Yeah. So right over here, it's a very basic front end which just kind of shows you what all accounts that you have, etc. Now, say I want a new feature where I want to kind of show an alert if an account balance is kind of like, say, less than 5,000. All right. So I want to implement that feature. And, one of the things is that I have spent quite some time in coding this. So I know exactly as to, which files I need to be modifying. Only the files, probably not the code. So I want control over which files need to be modified by Copilot. All right. So what I will do is I will discard these changes for now, and I will close all of the previous edits that we have, and I will open up the files that I need from my front end. So which hopefully is in components, accounts, and account summary was one of those. And then there is accounts table as well, which was showing the table and left side, the summary and everything, right? So what I can do is I'm going to go back into my Copilot. I'll start a new conversation over here. And let me remove this. And notice that right next to the model picker, you actually have one more drop down, which is the mode of Copilot. So ask was what we were working in, but there are two more modes over here. There's an edit mode and there's an agent mode as well. So let me show you edit mode first, where I can use to define a set of files and then what are the edits that I want to do. All right. So what I will do is I'll define the files by adding a context for it. And I'll say, take the open editors, which is my account summary and accounts table. All right. And then I will say that if an account balance is less than 5,000, add a low balance alert visual indication. All right. So I'm just giving it my problem statement. And then, it says that, okay, this is my prompt. All right. I'm not giving it change this code, change that code, or anything else. I'm just saying that, hey, these are the files over here. And I want, this thing to be accomplished in these files. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and then choose, a newest model, Cloth Sonnet 4 for this. And again, it's your choice as to which you want. And then Copilot, goes and then starts working on it. All right. So you can see the changes that it has already started making. All right. So I'll collapse this for now. And you see it's added an alert triangle. And it's added a ease low balance, and then it's added some more things for me. And as and when it's working through the changes, it's actually giving me what it's doing. It says, first I'll update the accounts table to show a low balance indicator. And then it says I need to use a tooltip component instead of title attribute. And then I'll add the necessary imports. I need to fix the format balance to use tooltip. And then it says I'll update the account summary component also to also include low balance alerts, right? Because I said that, change these files over here for me to make this work. So you see that it's working on this in the account summary, which is open again over here. It's gone ahead and added my alert triangle for me, and then it's gone ahead and added a little more filtering options as well, etc. All right. So it's going ahead and it says that I'll add a low balance alert card as well to the account summary grid. So basically, you see that it's working on the problem that I wanted. And then in the end, it also gives me a summary saying that, okay, in the accounts table, I've added an alert triangle. And then I use a tooltip to show low balance alert. And then in the account summary, I've made this change as well. All right. Now let's go take a look at that change. So this is all saved, and I have my front end server, which is already running in my terminal. So I can just go ahead and then use it right away because I have hot reload. Now there is 5001, so it's not showing anything. But let's go ahead and then edit that to see if it works, and I'm going to just make it into 4000. All right, and then I'll just say save changes, and there you see this was something which was added by Copilot right away. It says low balance alert. All right, so this was something which I needed. All right, and I just knew that, okay, I had to work through some of these files, and then I asked Copilot chat in edit mode saying that these are the files that I need some changes on. Can you go ahead and make those changes for me? And then it figured out what all changes need to be made. Okay, I need to change the text color here, I need to add an icon here, I need to add a tooltip here, etc. and make all of those changes work for me. All right. And that's how powerful edit mode is, because you can edit across multiple files to get what you want. So this changes looks good for me. So what I can do is I can either go to each specific change and look at the diff and then say either, okay, I want to keep this or I want to undo this. Or if it all looks good, like how I've seen, I can just go and then say keep for both of these files, and it's going to save and have it ready for me. All right. So this is great. I was able to do quickly something quickly going. All right. Now say I want to do something which is a little bit more powerful. All right. Now if I go back into my UI, I have something around accounts and transactions, and in settings I have, like, say, categories. All right, where I can manage some of my expense categories and things like that. So there's nothing right here in my expense categories. But one of the things in a finance app, if you think about it, is budgeting, right? So what's good is a finance app if you're not able to create and manage budgets for your expenses. So I want to implement a budgeting feature for my app. All right. Now, as a developer, what you might start doing initially is that you might start thinking about, okay, how do I implement this, because there's multiple things that need to be implemented for this new feature. Right, I need to go ahead and write my endpoints. I need to write my services in the back end. I need to do any database migrations which are needed. I need to go ahead and write the front end and multiple different things that I need to kind of figure out as well, right? So that's where the Copilot chat agent mode is going to come into play. So let's go ahead and then check that out. So for that, what I will do is I will close all of the existing files, because Copilot agent mode actually does not need any specific context. It will figure out its own context and make the changes. So what I will do right over here is I can just switch into agent mode, and it will automatically use all of the multiple requests to pick up the specific files that need to be edited, run any terminal commands. If it finds any errors, go ahead and fix those errors as well and make things happen. All right. So let me go ahead and give it a prompt of what I'm kind of trying to do over here. All right. And I'm going to keep it just like how I would talk to a peer developer. So I will say I want to create a new feature for setting time bound budgets slash spending limits for my expense categories. All right. And I say that the time could be specific, like a specific month, date range, a year, week, etc. Or it could even be generic, right? Like a weekly budget or a monthly budget or a yearly budget, etc. Right? So I'm just giving it a very high level overview of what I need. And then what I'm going to say also is that write me the backend functionality. I'm just asking it in the interest of time to say that write me the backend functionality, to implement this budgeting feature for me. All right. And that's what I'm going to ask it, right? I'm just giving it a very high level overview, no requirements documentation and things like that, because for me, I'm just figuring it out as I'm building it. All right. So when I go ahead and then share that with agent mode, it immediately starts working on what I asked. All right. So it says that, okay, let me start exploring the current structure to understand the existing models and API patterns. All right. So it's kind of reading all of the code here. For me, it's reading the endpoints directory. It's understanding what should be the transaction and category endpoints. To just understand how does this all fit in. It's now trying to understand the backend transaction endpoints to just understand how is something like the backend endpoints actually written, etc. And as in when it keeps working through, it kind of also goes back and summarizes what it has seen and figured out until then, and then kind of keeps working. So it sees that, okay, what are the database models, and then what are the enums, etc., which are there, which is happening. And then now it says that, okay, what's the base model structure? So you see all of these parts are actually real parts related to my application. These are things that I would have to definitely implement while building this new feature. But Copilot in agent mode is actually doing all of this for me. So it's, for example, it's seen that, okay, I have my enums, which is the first thing which it has modified, saying that write my budget period type and status and then budget level, all right, into my enums file. Then it's saying that, okay, I need to create a new budget model file as well of how to kind of go ahead and write my model as well, which incorporates all of my aspects of my database as well. So for those of you, if you're thinking what's a model, think as the model in an MVC pattern, right? So a similar model. So you see that if I open my budget.py, it's very nicely written me all of the comments explaining what it is, and it's written the budget model as well, and it's defined all of the fields that are needed, referencing other fields from my code as well, all of the recurring budgets. And so you see, I gave it a very high level overview of what's needed, and it's written me the models as well. And if it has to run any terminal commands, you can see over here that it asks me for a confirmation, because I am the developer. I am sitting in the pilot seat per se, and Copilot, relies on me to make any decisions needed. So it says that, okay, I want to generate this Alembic migrations for the new budget models. So I can say continue. And then what happens when I do continue is that Copilot starts up its own terminal over here and runs that command. And then you see there's an error which is coming up, and it's actually seen that it looks there's like an import issue with the budget module. And let me see if there are any syntax errors. So it's going ahead and actually trying to fix what is that error which is coming within the project. Now, this need not be something which is specific to this implementation. This is probably something which is remnants of some of the wrong code that was written early on, right? So it's going ahead and trying to figure out that, okay, probably there was some issue happening, and it says that, okay, let me try importing the specific models. Then it says that, okay, there's an issue while importing from app.models, right, which is not specific to the budget at all. It seems like it's at a models level, and all I'm just doing is giving it confirmation to go ahead and execute these commands, so it can then see as to, okay, where is the issue happening, and it's helping me debug based on the commands that it is running, and anything else that it is kind of figuring out, right? So see, it says that I can see the issue. The budget class definition is missing, the proper class declaration line, etc. And it's probably relooking at that, and then it's kind of iterating on what's going wrong. And it says that, okay, the issue is probably here where there is some more issue that is coming up as well. So while I'm approving Copilot, to kind of go ahead and run all of these things, I want to also address a few questions which are coming up here, in the chat as well. So just looking at it. Um, all right, so I'm just approving this, just to see what's going on. But meanwhile, there's a question on. Okay, so it says that it wants to recreate this. Please go ahead, with whatever needs to be done, and it's creating a simpler version. But there's a question as to, can Copilot create a desktop application. You know, it depends on what kind of a desktop application you're trying to build, because if you think about how Copilot works, it's really good at suggesting a whole lot of the code based on the languages it knows really well. So it could be something which is if it is, say, written on C or C++, or if you're using Python itself for building a few other things, etc., then that's something which it can go ahead and build it for you, because it will have enough context of what's happening, and you can actually use a whole lot of other things like model context protocol, etc., to make any of the changes that are needed. All right. So you see, these are all things which are which are what's happening over here, related to a few code which was probably not written well early on, because it's not able to use many of the models itself. All right. So you see, it's probably something where how init.py is, because it's not able to find the specific model. So if I go back over here, right, so it's able to look at budget alert, budget period, all of these things. It has written as well, right? So there's still, it's something which is trying to figure out as well as to why this is something which is not being able to kind of import. If you look at it, right, it definitely seems something which is which has and is able to kind of look into it as well. All right. And there's a budget.py, and then there is also the class and everything else which are there. And then probably there is some other issue which is which is going on as well. All right. So it says that, hey, your budget.py itself probably did not work properly. So it's not even actually related to the code. It just probably is how some of this is working, right? So I just hit a command S, and I can actually go back and then tell it, saying that I want to make any specific changes. For example, I can then say that um, go ahead and try importing or running the migrations. Now I've saved the budget.py manually. All right. So just so it knows that I've gone ahead and actually saved this, so you don't have to, kind of figure out rewriting all of these things. So this is where a whole lot of the human judgment is important, right? It tells me that let's go ahead and then, kind of remove all of this file and recreate it. But as a human developer, I knew that if it is a 0 bytes, and if the file is open right in front of me, all I probably have to do is just hit on save to ensure that the file actually gets saved, and it can kind of make it a lot more better, right? So if I go back and then do that, you can see all of the migrations run, right? And this is why human judgment as a developer is very, very important, because Copilot definitely can help you, but as a developer, you will probably have a lot more insight into what's happening. So you can see that it's created the migration file, and then it's trying to run the migration. And then there is one other issue around imports. So you see, it's going ahead and fixing all of these things, whatever is needed to make this work, right? All I'm doing is I'm just ensuring that whatever it is running is right. Something which is kind of trying to create is fine. And for example, like this, this is something which, as an error, again, as a developer, as a human judgment, all right, the error I'm seeing is that I've run this migration before from another application, which is probably why this is giving this specific error as well, right? So this is again my issue of how I am handling my development, when it comes to what's happening, right? So, and it can go ahead and then actually kind of connect directly to the database as well, hopefully, and then give me some issues. All right, but as a developer, I can again pause it and then say, hey, hold on. What I'm going to say is that enums already exist in my DB, continue other than it. All right, and then see. Now, I while agent mode is working on, I will take a few more questions. As to there's one question I see. Um, as to how efficient it would be to use Copilot to migrate the entire tech stack from, say, Java 11 to Java 17. That's a great question, because very recently at Microsoft Build conference the previous week, we announced something called as the app modernization for Java and .NET, which is what you can use to actually migrate, various different versions of Java or .NET or your entire stack, which is a whole lot more involved in doing stuff, as well, right? So that's something which is definitely possible, using Copilot. All right. Now, there's, of course, this is going on, and again, remember, this is because of my error, because I know that these enums that it is trying to work on actually already exist. All right. So I'm not going to worry much about this in the interest of time. All right. What I'm going to do is, okay, this is a good checkpoint, and I will keep all of these files for now because these work. Because my database migration was something which I had done earlier as a developer. So I will keep all of these files, and what I can do is, like a good developer, I will go into my source control and I will go ahead and see there are a lot of modifications. I will stage all of these. And if you're a developer, you would have known that one of the things that always worries you, it's somewhere at the back of my mind, is what should I put as a commit message? There's so many changes, and you'll probably put as updated this or updated that or something of that sort, right? So what I can do is actually ask again Copilot with this little icon over here to generate a commit message for me. So it says implement the budget models and transaction subcategory deletion endpoint, which is again generated by Copilot based on all of these changes. So I can go ahead, commit it, and publish the branch. All right. Now, before we go into this, you might be wondering, how did Copilot understand a whole lot of things as to, like, what is my project, what is it using, and a whole lot of those things, right? Now, that's something where something powerful called as custom instructions come into play. So in a project, if you have a .github folder and something called as copilot instructions.md, that is going to get picked up every time you're asking Copilot for something. And this is where you can define custom instructions for your specific project. For example, I can define all the instructions related to my backend, saying that it uses fast API, endpoints are located here, use service modules for all of the logic. And, these instructions are related to front end. These instructions are related to database. Notice that I told it that after generating migration files, ensure that they get applied, which is why while agent mode was working, it ensured that it's not just about generating. Go ahead, apply, test it, make sure it's fine, right? And similarly, I give it a whole lot of other custom instructions as well. Now, while I'm here, one of the things I want to do is that you notice all of this is around light mode. I want this to be in dark mode. All right, so without switching context right over here, I will just kind of make a note for myself, and ask it to create an issue in my GitHub repo. For example, I will just say, create a GitHub issue in my mv current slash money repo, for implementation of a new dark mode toggle in the app header of the app so that when the toggle is turned on, everything changes to dark mode. I'm still in the agent mode over there, and I give this specific prompt, and what it does is it can actually go ahead and create this GitHub issue for me using something called as the Model Context Protocol, or the MCP. All right, so it runs the GitHub MCP server. If I go over here, you can see this Copilot chat, but there's also the MCP server GitHub, using which it can communicate, and Copilot can automatically determine which kind of tools to call from this MCP server, which is authenticated with my GitHub account, and then it goes ahead and crafts this for me and created this issue. So let's take a look at that in a bit. But if you remember, we went ahead and actually created our published our branch, which we did right now, right? So let's go back into our github.com in my repo, which you can see had recent pushes. So I'll just do a compare pull request. And one of the awesome things again with GitHub is this is something which is available only in the GitHub Pro plan. Everything which I showed you up until now is something which is available with GitHub free, with GitHub Copilot free as well. And what I'm showing you right now, especially here on github.com, is available only in Copilot Pro, which is I can actually ask Copilot to generate a summary of the changes in the pull request as well, so that when someone is reviewing it, they get some context of what this pull request is about and what are the changes. So if I go look at this Copilot generated pull request description, it says that these are all the changes that was there. I can just go ahead and create the pull request that I need. And not just that, I showed you how you can do a code review in Visual Studio Code, right? Where you can select the code that you need and ask it for a review. If you're having Copilot Pro, you can actually ask Copilot for a review right here in github.com itself. So you can ask Copilot for a review, and then it says that I requested a review from Copilot right now, and Copilot will go ahead, look at all of the changes in your pull request, however, how many other files they are or whatever commits they are, and show me only the most confident reviews or comments that it has when it comes to my code, right? If it's not confident of something, it will tell me what are the files it has reviewed, but it won't generate any comments for me to make any changes on as well, right? So while Copilot is actually going ahead reviewing my code, which we will kind of see pop up in a few seconds right now, I will take up a few more questions coming up on the chat. And I see there's a question on um, code security, on will the API keys or the code itself be available to the Copilot publicly? All right. The good question, sorry, the good answer, or rather, the good news is that no. Whenever you're using GitHub Copilot, right, the responses are used only to kind of um, give you a response, and Copilot does not get trained from any of that specific content or so that you are using, right? It always relies on whatever model that you choose. So rest assured that if your .env file has tokens, in my case also I do have, or if there are any environment variables in your terminal or anything of that sort, Copilot does not use any of that, or even kind of suggest any of those things as well. So I'll come back to some more questions on that, but meanwhile let's see that it has actually generated a few suggestions for me after a review, where it says that your 500 threshold would be good to actually go ahead and make it into a constant instead of hard coding, which is actually a good suggestion. And it says that again, shared constant, right? Which are good suggestions. And in fact, I can go ahead and commit this right over here with the changes, or I can go back as a developer and then kind of go look into and make any of those changes myself as well. So this is something, as a pull request summary, and also uh, code review, which is available on Copilot Pro. Now, while we are at it, let's go take a look back at that issue we asked to create. You can see over here, opened 5 minutes ago, which was what I did from my agent mode in VS Code, where all I asked is just create an issue for my implementation. And it's actually gone back, used some of my Copilot instructions, and then says that these are all some of the implementations which kind of need to be done to fulfill yours, right? It's given me such a nice complete issue based on just what I wanted. I just asked, I want a dark mode, and again, Copilot has used that not just to write this issue for me, but also make it so very nice in terms of requirements, and I can go ahead and modify it as I want as well. Now, this is what mind blowing I'm about to show you right now, all right? Which is something very, very new that we again announced just a few days ago at Microsoft Build, which is the Copilot coding agent, all right? So far, what we have done is with code completions, next edit suggestions, etc., we have gone and written code, we have edited multiple files, we have done some written tests, we have asked for a code review, we have asked agent mode, and then written a bit of a backend functionality, etc. All of it is something which we were kind of giving prompts, etc. But here in front of me is an issue with a full task to implement dark mode, all right, within my app, which is not just the toggle, because it has to go back and make all of these multiple changes, all right. Here's the amazing thing: with Copilot coding agent, I can go ahead and assign this issue to Copilot, and what it does is Copilot starts working on this issue right away and creates a draft pull request as well on solving this issue entirely on its own right here on github.com. So if I go and scroll down, okay, you can see it started work on behalf of me right now. And I can actually go ahead and see what it is working on as well. It is setting up a complete development environment powered by GitHub Actions. So if I go here in my actions, it says that fixing issue number 22, and here is what it is doing, which is actually bootstrapping my entire code by setting up every dependency in the backend, setting up all of the Node.js dependencies for the front end, etc. Just like how a developer would do, ensure that everything is set up using MCP servers to communicate with GitHub as well. So all of this is backed by GitHub Actions, and the coding agent has started, processing the request of what we really need. So this is just, for logs to show you, but you don't have to kind of go see all of this, because you can go back into where we were, which is on, the sessions that we were looking at of the Copilot session. And, it's spinning up the dev environment and kind of processing that request. And as and when it's working on it, it starts giving me all of the things which it is working on. And the amazing part of this is that this helps me as a developer work on multiple tasks at a time. So remember that what we did in VS Code was we were going one task by one task, going into the agent mode and then working on it because we needed control. But here is a feature where I am totally okay for Copilot to take over and then work on, and I just assign the issue. If I have 10 more issues to work on, I can go ahead and assign all of those as well to Copilot, and Copilot works on all of those issues parallelly through these sessions and starts working on implementing all of these things. All right, now this is still working. All right, so I'll give it a few more minutes, and we are close to the end of the session, so I'm going to take all of the questions that you folks have right now, and as soon as Copilot is done working and testing the changes as well, it will request me for a review, and I'll get a notification when it requests me for a review, and let's come back at that time to check the work that Copilot has done. So meanwhile, let's head over to your questions that you have right now. um all right. Oh wow, there's a um lot of questions that are coming in. And there's someone who is asking about, are we going to lose our jobs? All right. Human developers are always needed. All right. Let me tell you that, because I showed you in the past, 1 hour, 1.5 hour or so, multiple different instances where the human judgment was important. If you recollect, when I showed you that issue which was happening with the backend model, all right, that was a human developer judgment. All right. And same case when it comes to migrations. I, as a developer, took a judgment that this already existed, so this is probably something which I knew was something which would kind of have some issues with, right? So human developers, will not go away, but what will happen is that I believe the role that a developer plays will elevate from just coding to actually solving problems. All right, be it tasks that you get like this, or be it very specific requirements that you get, etc., right? Your role as a developer becomes to, how do I solve that problem, rather than how do I write the code for this, because you have Copilot with you to help you write that code. And you kind of think about, how do I solve this problem, architecturally or code wise, or any other changes that I need, right? So that's the thought over there. um, and All right, so there's another question. um, so So there is a question: in real-time job environment, companies allowed to use copilots for writing code? Absolutely. If you go into the GitHub website itself, all right, you can see examples of many, many organizations who are using Copilot for writing code, for writing features, for writing entire products itself themselves. If you were to think of something like, say, India, right? There is a video that share on YouTube that we have about how Infosys is using Copilot. There is also a video about how an open source project is using Copilot to develop an open healthcare platform that is being used in so many hundreds of different hospitals in India today. There's also, recently where we showed at Microsoft Build, where something like even Cathay Pacific, an airline, is using Copilot for development. So this is something which is being used today. So this is not just to showcase what's possible. This is all real, which is why I am not running a video, I am not showing you a presentation, I am showing it to you live here, real as it gets, as to what is possible with Copilot today. um so let me take some more questions, and then there is um all right, there's one question in an empty folder that I opened to start my project. How do I enable Copilot and the Copilot instructions.md? Now, now the example that I showed you was related to how you can use Copilot for an existing application, but you can always use Copilot to write your complete code itself. All right. Now, believe it or not, But this app that I showed you, that, as a demo that I've been working on, has been 100% written by GitHub Copilot, right? I have been using agent mode in Copilot to start telling it the requirements of giving it a diagram, just a high level diagram of these are all the different, components of my application. And then I was prompting it to tell it what needs to be done. But that does not mean that I don't know what's happening in the app, because I am still, someone who is very much the owner of who what is being built over here, right? Which is why I was able to make that judgment calls on what was happening in all of these places where I had to kind of skip and do things, right? So definitely yes, all you have to do is, you can go ahead and start using GitHub Copilot free, or you can use one of the GitHub Pro or Pro Plus plans, etc. And once you have that, just get on to VS Code, and sign in with your GitHub account, and then you can get started in coding right away. Um, All right. So with that, there's also a very related question on as to how do some of these tiers work. Now, of course, there's Copilot free, Copilot Pro, Copilot Pro Plus, Copilot Enterprise as well, etc. Right? Now, there's of course certain limits when it comes to the free Copilot free, as to how many interactions you can use in chat, code completions, how many you can use agent mode, etc. So that's something which is limited, in terms of a tier. So if you want to use more, that's something which you would have to either wait until the limit resets, or go back and kind of upgrade as well. Um, so I'll go with a little bit more on the questions, but I just want to kind of show you back over here. If you see, we assigned this issue to Copilot, and it started working 9 minutes ago, and it has completed the work for me and requested for review. So if I go back into files changed, you can see it has changed multiple files, to make some of these edits, whatever is needed. And the good part is that if I have to make any changes, just like a developer, I can actually ask Copilot and leave a review comment, to go ask it to make any changes as needed. All right. So what I will do is, before asking it to make any changes, I'm just gonna go and then pull these changes within my VS Code, just to see what it is that it has worked on as well. All right, so I'm just going to do a git fetch over here to get some of these things, and then I'm going to do a git checkout of that branch. Hopefully my front end should kind of restart with whatever is there. Of course, I think there is a possibility of a few errors, because hey, it can't resolve next themes. That is fine. I'm guessing most probably it's to do with package JSON again as a developer. So I'm just gonna run an npm install, because somewhere I think I noticed that it updated the package, JSON, I believe. So it's added that one package, and I'm just going to do a npm run dev again, to bring this up, and then see if it's something that kind of solves for me. All right. So if I go back and refresh it, yeah, it's worked, and here is my toggle, and hopefully when I do that, it works. A dark mode which has been enabled and written completely by GitHub Copilot. I didn't ask it anything. Remember, what I started with was just that small prompt in agent mode, saying that just create this issue for implementation of dark mode. And it wrote down the whole requirements for me, what all is needed. And then I assigned that issue to Copilot, which went ahead and wrote the whole implementation for me. All right. And that's the GitHub Copilot coding agent for you. So before I dive a little bit more into the questions, I just want to give you a quick recap of everything that we've done. Remember, when we started off this session, all right, we started off with just um, VS Code. We use code completion to write, a small new endpoint. We use next edit suggestions to write all of those service patterns. We use chat to learn a little bit about how some of these things work, understand a little bit of that SQL aspect. Use again Copilot edits to make edits across those multiple files to add that low balance alert. And then again used agent mode to go and then write a part of our backend functionality as well. And then again used our MCP server that we had connected to create that GitHub issue and write all of the requirements needed. And then also go back and use the GitHub Copilot coding agent to go ahead and solve for all of the task and issue for me, as well. And at the same time, I was able to generate the pull request summary, which was there in my pull request when I created, and also of course go back and request for review. And this was so much that we did, in the past 90 minutes, just starting off from nowhere, just like a developer, just like how you would do starting off with a project, right? I want to implement this, etc. And worked on multiple different things, right? So before I jump into questions, etc. as well, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have joined and here to kind of learn more as well. And thank you to all of you who have listening to this recording as well. So I'll drop my LinkedIn as well as Twitter if you want to connect with me, and then stay updated with what else is happening on GitHub Copilot and GitHub as well. So with that, let's move on to questions, and I'll keep my screen sharing open so that if there's any question that comes up where you would like to see anything, I will go ahead and then share that with you. So I will share this again, of course, to people here on link on GitHub, sorry, on YouTube as well. So for those of you who are watching it on YouTube, I'm just dropping my LinkedIn as well as my X/Twitter account as well for you to get connected on. All right, so let's jump into the questions, and I'm gonna try and answer as many as possible, and I'll combine some of these into themes to address this in a larger way. So one of the questions is around how big of a project can Copilot agent mode handle? All right. Now, Copilot agent mode, all right, again, uses your entire code base as context, and then kind of identifies which are the right files to really look into. So it uses multiple different agentic tools to kind of further refine that these are the relevant files. These are the files which we probably have to look more closer into, etc. So it can handle as big of a code base as you have. There is no limit that there's only code bases with so many number of files that it can handle or so, etc. um, there is okay, let me see. um, okay, there's a few questions around data security, privacy, and a whole lot of things as well. So I'll address all of those as a larger theme. All right. Now the very first thing is that Copilot does not use all of the code that you have or your prompts, etc., for training anything. All right. There is an option in some of the plans to turn off the telemetry, and the telemetry is just to understand whether this is a high quality suggestion for you or not. It does not include anything that's very specific to your code or prompt or anything of that sort. All right. Copilot relies on whatever is, the training of the underlying model, to go ahead and help you with that. All right. So there are larger plans of Copilot, like Copilot Enterprise, Copilot for Business, etc. And all of these have a whole lot more security and privacy and governance controls when it comes to AI. So organizations are able to even go back and then say that, okay, don't you know allow Copilot to show any publicly matched code or something of that sort. They can kind of control and specify which models they want all of the users to have or not, etc. So one of the things is that Copilot is not just about the VS Code that I showed you or here on github.com. Copilot is the peer programmer which is there across all of your environments, whether you're using on VS Code or github.com with you. And our approach, of course, with GitHub itself is to make it into a comprehensive Copilot powered developer platform. All right. So which includes again all of the things which comes as a developer platform that all of you have come to trust, things like security, privacy, etc. Right. So there's a whole lot more that you can get details into. So you can go look up for the Copilot Trust Center, which has FAQs on all of the details and questions on security and privacy concerns. But again, because this is something which we take care of, there are organizations, including like how I mentioned, organizations which are service integrators or open source communities like health tech, or fintech or airlines, or telecom, and people across various industries using Copilot today. Um, okay, so let me see. There are a few other questions as well, um, which are coming in. Um, Now, there are a few questions on at a high level theme. How can I ask Copilot to kind of stay away from these files or use these files or not use these files? Copilot instructions is really helpful. All right. So if you say, for example, and put an instruction in Copilot instructions saying that, don't touch anything in this directory, all right, or don't touch any of these files, then Copilot instructions, because that is used as additional context for every chat request that you're making, right? It will use that as an additional context and kind of look into that. Um, all right, so let me look at a few other questions that might have come in. Um, There's a very good question on if I accept changes without changing or a commit. So basically, someone is asking, can I go back and look at the history of some of my agent edits and what has been done? So if I go back over here, or right here in the agent mode, there is also all of the chats over here, right? Which were all of the previous interactions, which you can go back into. So if I go back into, say, this initially where I asked for the account balance, I can take a look at this conversation as well, right? So this is a very useful feature if you want to go back into certain conversations with that context and pick up what you were working on at that time as well. There's also a really good question which has come in around um, which model to use when. All right. So a really, really good question. So, there is very less time to address some of those, but head over to the GitHub YouTube channel because we have an entire video dedicated to it as to how do you decide which model, to use. My colleagues, Andrea and Damien, have created this amazing video walking through some examples as well and some tips as to how do you choose which model is useful for your task as well. So there's also one question which is Copilot helpful only for open source or even for closed source, etc.? Now, Copilot, does not really look at whether you're working on an open source project or a closed source project, etc. What it really looks at is what is the code base that you're working on, what is the project that you're working on, etc. And it works equally great, across open source or closed source or so as well, because Copilot is not just being used by developers in organizations or teams, but it is being used by open source contributors, maintainers, and developers as well to build various different projects that so many of us use as well today. So that's something which is being used by so many folks. So there is one very very general question which I will probably let Harshvardhan and team answer towards the end is recording and certificate. I'll probably let you answer that, but I think we have most of the questions covered from across YouTube as well as from Zoom as well for many people. Um, so last question is, can Copilot have access to internet and use graphics, icons, fonts, other resources in agent mode? Yes, it definitely can as well, because of this powerful thing called MCP, all right? You can actually specify, a certain URL over here as well, and then say, fetch this and then work on it, and it can work on it. Or, you can even kind of use something right over here. For example, I can open up a very simple browser and I can open up, my app that's running over here. Say, for example, this, all right, and I can actually start chatting about this. So I can then say, I can select any of these elements and things like that, and then ask questions about this. So it uses it as the context, and then I can start working on it as well. This could be anything as well. How is this implemented? How do I implement this, etc., or so as well, right? Or again, you can give specific URL over here. For example, I can say implement this using primer style mention here, and then give it a web URL like this to go back and then look and then implement as well. You can definitely do all of those. All right. So I think in the interest of time, I will pause over here. But that said, if there are any other questions or so that you have, please share them, and happy to answer some of them. And also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or X/Twitter, so you can stay updated on what all is coming up, and all of the new features on GitHub or GitHub Copilot, or just some of the tips on how you can actually improve your development workflows as well with GitHub Copilot. So I hope this session has been useful for you. And again, this is a very very small part of what GitHub Copilot can do. I just gave you the highlights reel without going into a whole lot of details. There's so much more that GitHub Copilot can do in the CLI for you. It can help you fix some of your CI errors. You can go experiment with various different kinds of models as well using GitHub models. You can write an entire app using natural language using GitHub Spark. So much more that's possible. This is just the beginning, and this is how powerful it is. So thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in. If you need more resources to learn more, you can head over to the GitHub YouTube channel, youtube.com/GitHub, or stay connected with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or head over to GitHub blog as well on github.blog. So thank you so much. And with that, back to the Geeks for Geeks team, Harshvardhan.
Okay. So that was an amazing session, Karan, because I think I speak for the crowd because it was really the idea that not to go with the presentation, but actually going with the entire workflow was a different thing, and it was really interesting. And I think I speak for the crowd because I personally learned a lot of things, and I'm really excited to actually utilize these things in action for my own sake, right? So again, I thank everyone for your participation in this. And as far as I saw the comments and all, I felt that major comments were revolving around the idea that this is again going to take a lot of jobs, right? So again, I thought the same thing that you mentioned, that initially when we were introduced to the LLM models and all, so we again thought that there's a problem with our jobs now. But we actually implemented and started using those LLM models to our own sake. So I think we can utilize the same thing to for our own sake. And as you mentioned, we can actually utilize on thinking for the solution rather than focusing on exactly writing the code because we have Copilot with us. Right. So with that, I think I'd answer a few questions that were revolving around the recording and all. So I feel that this session is getting recorded on YouTube as well. So if you guys have the link for that, that link is available throughout for the entirety of you. So again, if you want to just revisit the session, you can revisit throughout the same link, and the recording would be available from on our YouTube channel as well. And that's it. Again, how can we get the certificates? I am assuming that the certificates for the Zoom people would be sent directly based on your registration count. You'll be sent directly with that, right? And I think we have answered most of the questions. So again, I feel I like to thank everyone for you joining into this entire session, and I thank Karan again for the intriguing session that I found myself to be. So, any final words, Karan, from your end?
Just a final thing I want to share, is that Copilot and AI is a superpower and a peer programmer for you. Remember that it's a co-pilot. You're still the pilot working on building some of the things. And the reason why Copilot and everything else exists is to help with your productivity, to make you more productive so that you can go and build the stuff that you really love and solve the problems. Because at the end of the day, and this is something which I strongly believe in, all of us as developers, even if you're a student or a seasoned professional developer, really have the power to, transform and solve so many different problems that the world faces today, not just in technology, with the help of technology itself, right? So use GitHub Copilot to be more productive, to solve more problems, to write more code, and also to learn more and to share more as well.
Thank you, Karan, for your words. And I feel after the session, even I am going to use this Copilot and actually utilize that for my development sake. So, with that, I'd like to end the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karan, and thank you for all the participants. You have the recording, everyone. Just revisit Copilot. And remember, it's Copilot. You are the host. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Thanks, everyone.